Welcome to the Unstuck Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Miner. This weekly no-fluff mindset show arms you with the practical tools you need to get unstuck so you can get exactly what you want out of life. Remember, when you change your mind, your life will follow. Let's get into today's episode. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the Unstuck Podcast. So happy to be here with you all today. Huge shout out to all of you for tuning in, whether this is time numero uno or you've been listening to what now almost 60 episodes, I think we're at. That's pretty cool. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to answer your questions, which I've done some listener question episodes in the past, really focusing and breaking down just one question, which has been really great. And I haven't really done that since the start of quarantine because I wasn't able to record 2 episodes per week. It just got to be too much with not being able to go anywhere, not being able to go to the office, not having the space and the time that I needed to do that. So when I got down to doing just the Friday episodes, I had to cut out those listener question episodes, and I do plan on bringing them back. So don't worry, they will come back. 2 episodes a week, hopefully will be in the near future. But I did want to still connect with you guys and see if you had any questions. So I put a call out on my Instagram stories for any listener questions that you had, and I have some that I'm going to go through. So for the first time ever here on the Unstuck Podcast, I'm going to do kind of a rapid fire Q&A. Now, when I say that, you think, oh, wow, she's going to make it through a lot of questions. No, I probably won't because my rapid fire usually isn't all that rapid. I tend to, as you may have seen now over the past 60 episodes, I tend to want to chat things out a little longer than a rapid fire response, which is to be expected at this point. So we'll get through as many questions as I can. These are very much a kind of off the cuff, from the heart. My first kind of initial response when I see these questions, there's nothing scripted, there's no notes, there's no nothing. I just look at the questions and give my full response based on my initial reaction and my initial thoughts and emotions behind those questions. So kind of fun, kind of different. I used to do this all the time on my other nutrition podcast, and it was so fun. I love doing it because you really can get kind of this candid response. It's almost like if we were sitting down having coffee and just chatting, and I ask you a question or you ask me a question, and this is just what comes up with no previous thought or research or note-taking, scripting, anything like that. It's just like we're having coffee, which is fun. And since we can't really do that all that often these days with our friends and family, let's do it on a podcast. Why not? That's safe still, right? All right, so these questions, I did just do a brief scan, and they're all over the map. There are a few that talk more about nutrition and wellness and kind of the mindset around some of those things. And there are just overall life mindset questions, which is all great. So that means we're going to go all over the map, whichever place this takes us, and see where we end up at the end of the episode. But regardless, there's going to be something in here to catch for every single one of you. And I think you hopefully are finding that to be true with these Unstuck podcast episodes that we're doing, that even if there's a title that you're like, I don't really think this applies to me, but we'll give it a go. And there's still something in there. There's always something in each of these episodes, whether they seem to apply to you or not, that is a takeaway that can be applied to your life, that can be implemented, that can be kind of fleshed out a little bit more for you. So it's about finding those nuggets even when you don't think something directly applies to you. That's really what this mindset, spirituality, energy work is all about. And I think hopefully you're finding that out. All right, let's get to these rapid fire questions. The first one, how can I feel confident in saying no to sugary treats at parties? And then in parentheses, it's figure out those stories. Yeah, this is a big one. There's a lot here. This is kind of a loaded question in a way. First of all, are you going to parties? Because that sounds fun. It sounds like something I haven't done in a while. A little jealous of that if you're going to parties. But no, just kidding. How can I feel confident saying no to sugary treats? So my first initial reaction is that if you don't have the confidence to say no to sugary treats and really even give it a second thought or even have any sort of reaction in that scenario, then yes, there are stories to uncover. But is there also the desire for those sugary treats? Do you want that treat? Is that why you have this kind of resistance in saying no, or, not taking the plate or feeling weird about it? Like, if you want it, if it looks good to you, if you want to be part of the party in that way, if that would mean a lot to you, and if you just want that dessert and you want to enjoy it and take as many bites as feels good and then put it on your plate when you're done and it no longer is as satisfying, then do it. So make sure, first of all, that you saying no isn't in opposition to what you really want to say. Because if you want to say yes and you want to enjoy that treat and you want to have a dessert with your friends and family, and that means a lot to you and that dessert would satisfy you body, mind, and soul, then do it. It's not just about the physical body. And remember, that is something I had to learn. That's something that I'm now teaching to others. And that's something that you all have to learn too if you are on this quest for health, that sometimes, probably all the nutritionists out there are going to shoot me right now, but that's okay. Sometimes what isn't necessarily the quote unquote healthiest for your physical body, it does have sugar, or it does have sweeteners or, weird food colorings or something crazy. But sometimes that is what's best for your mental, emotional, and energetic bodies, because it is something that will make you feel fulfilled, satisfied, happy, joyful, part of the community, part of the party. It's like your favorite treat ever, and it's just going to fill you up with joy. That's important too. That builds health as well. And so if it's a little bit of sugar at a party with your friends and birthday cake is your favorite thing, then have the birthday cake. The confidence then is choosing the right path for you, not being in opposition to what you actually desire. So consider that and know that making that decision in that way is the healthy one. Even if, yes, it does have a little bit of sugar. I think, then there's this thought of, well, if I continue to always choose the thing that brings me joy, well, then I'm always good. I'm going to be eating sugar and processed foods 24/7. I'm going to be totally overloaded with sugar and salt and all these crappy things. And if you're truly in touch with your mental, emotional, and spiritual health, that won't happen. That will not happen. You will find your natural place where you feel fulfilled and healthy in those aspects, even with foods that aren't particularly quote unquote healthy physically. But then you will also find that place where enough is enough, your tank is full, and now you want to find the nearest salad. And that is what is going to continue to keep your spiritual, mental, and emotional tank full. And of course, your physical health too. So you can find that perfect place in all aspects And I think that that's missing for quite a few people, which is why it does get to this point now where it's like, I have to say no to these things. I don't actually really want to say no to these things, but I have to say no because they're not quote unquote healthy. So now how do I feel this confidence? Or now I have all these stories running around in my head, and how do I even approach those? And then it becomes this whole crazy cycle where we actually deplete our mental, emotional, and spiritual health / energetic health in trying to do so. And that's what really trips us up in the health and wellness community, especially, is that we get so focused on what is or is not healthy, quote unquote, physically, and forget the rest. So we've really got to open our eyes and open our minds and hearts to that full experience. So that's the first thing. The second thing then is, if you legit, truly do not want those sugary treats like that birthday cake or whatever. I was celebrating my mom's birthday yesterday, and they had some sort of Nutella cookie, Oreo cookie pie thing that I like legit don't want. That does not sound appealing to me in the slightest. I had absolutely no problem with everyone else having a piece of pie except for me, because I truly don't want that. And that truly would not light me up. So I just perfectly happy having my burger. And then I went home and had a few bites of super dark chocolate, because that's my fulfillment in that area, body, mind, soul, is chocolate for sure. What else would you ever want? So that is how I operate. And I have there's literally zero emotion connected to that. So then what I had to do to get there is to build this unshakable confidence and knowing of myself, of all these different bodies that I am now focused on their health. And it does require going through those stories. So some common stories to where you feel like you don't have confidence in saying no to things at parties that you legit don't want would be that, you feel bad for someone making something that you don't want to eat. So you feel like you're obliged to take something that you don't want. Or it could be that you feel nervous that you're going to be kind of singled out as, oh, she's on a diet, or she's the healthy person, or, oh, look at her. And people say that stuff all the time out of their own lack of confidence. It has nothing to do with you, out of their own lack of confidence. So you might be kind of worried that you'll be singled out, which is common. You might have some stories around, all birthdays need to be celebrated with a birthday cake, even if it's not yours. So you have to have dessert if you're at any sort of party. There might be stories there. You have to figure out what your story is, and you have to want to do that work. So if you can even just get to that place where, say you were at a party, or maybe you're currently at a party, or you're going to a party, something like that is in your recent experience or coming up, dig in deeper. So, okay, I was not confident in saying no to that sugar retreat. Why? Then say, oh, well, I felt like I had to. It was put in my lap, and, it was a really special occasion. The host really wanted me to try her new dessert. Okay, so why didn't I have the confidence to not accept it? Well, I felt bad. I don't want to be seen as that person. I didn't have the confidence to speak up for myself. So you just keep asking yourself, keep drilling it down, keep going until you get to that place where you can identify what's really behind that lack of confidence. And a lot of times it just does take asking yourself why so many times, just constantly drilling down and asking yourself why. And this applies to any and all situations where you feel kind of that unwanted emotion come up and you don't understand, and there's a story behind it, and you want to get to that place so that you can change that behavior. You've got to take the time and really use that opportunity as a learning experience for you and get curious. Of course, I'm going to say to write it down because that's the easiest way to really see what's behind all of this, your behaviors and actions and thoughts and emotions, and get to the bottom of it. And then once you do, you have the power, you see it on paper, this story you've created in your head, and then you can very easily rewrite that story. And as you rewrite that story right there in your journal, you can see this new phrase that you now have the ability to tell yourself in those situations, or even just as much as you can as practice out in the world before your party, so that when you get to that place, you're ready to tell yourself that new story and to speak up for your actual desires. And then you have that action. So if the host puts the piece of cake on your lap, you can say, "Oh, no, thank you. I'm really full. This looks really delicious. You did a great job, but I'm all set. Done. End of story." And that is your actual confidence coming through. It's not fake. It's not false. It's not saying no to something you actually want. It's speaking up for yourself and speaking up for your health and your desires. That's all it is. And again, not just your physical health, not like, "Oh, I'm on a diet, I can't eat that." But no, I'm all set. Thank you. Looks delicious. I'm good. Tons of confidence. No more conversation required. Done and done. So those are the two things. Do you really want it? Then eat it and be mindful and acknowledge that you want it and enjoy the heck out of it and be very understanding of when it feels good and when it doesn't. And you don't have to eat the whole piece of cake if you have a bite and it's like, nope, done. That was plenty. That was enough. I feel satisfied, fulfilled, happy, joyful, donezo. That's an option for sure. And then if you truly don't want that thing, get to those stories. You have to uncover them. You have to do your own digging. No one else can do it for you because no one else has your particular story. But it is up to you to want that and to take the time to do that work and uncover them and then simply rewrite it. Just try rewriting it and then try practicing that new phrase. That's literally just the opposite, pretty much the opposite of what your story is. You're just switching it to be the truth, essentially, and see how that goes. All right, let's move on. How to find your path in life. I'm feeling lost. I think this is such a good question, and I think something that is so timely because there are a lot of people out there who have lost their jobs, or their job has changed, or they're taking on someone else's role too as their company downsizes. There's just a lot of transition happening right now with people's jobs and careers and life paths. And I think a lot of people have this question now because, I like to see this, if we're kind of spinning this to be a positive thing, which, I'm going to try to do for sure. But I like to see this as an awakening. It's like we are waking up to this slumber that we've been in for who knows how long, to where we go to work every day at the same time and we do the same thing and we see the same people and we're on autopilot. And now that was shaken up and it woke us up to be like, do I really want to do this? What else is out there for me? Or even I lost my job and now I have a second chance, which please know, I'm not trying to make light of you losing your job if you are someone who has found unemployment in all of this. I know that is a super difficult, super tough situation, and there's a lot of people going through that, and I'm not trying to make light of that at all. But in an effort to see what good could come out of this, it could be the second chance that you needed. And I don't know, there's like a statistic out there, I'm not exactly sure remotely the number, but there's a huge percentage of people that have gotten fired from their jobs in the not just in this situation, in this time of pandemic, but just throughout life, have lost their jobs and ended up creating massive success in their lives, either with their own business or getting into the job of their dreams and totally expanding and opening and having these monumentous career shifts and success shifts because they were fired. And it would have never happened unless they were forced out of their autopilot mode. So that's a really interesting thing. And this could be the case. I think this will be the case for so many people coming out of this pandemic is we're waking up, we're shifting, we're finding our true passion and purpose, which brings me to my answer for this question, which is, okay, so again, the question, because of course I got on a little tangent there, how to find your path in life. I'm feeling lost. Your path in life needs to come from a place, especially when you feel this sense of being lost. It's because you haven't spent time and dedicated real energy towards finding your purpose, your passion, your mission, your values. These things will be your ultimate director on your life's path. You will never, ever question your life's path again if you are always focusing on, again, let me go through these, your passion. So essentially, what lights you up? If I'm kind of thinking about it in one sentence, what lights you up? That is your passion. And you can have multiple passions. And I think it's good to have multiple passions. And then you can kind of hone them in to see which one could potentially be a career or even a business. And that's something that I want to talk about later is in another question is this might be a great time for you to start your own business, but we'll get there. So your passions, what lights you up, write all those down. So everything I'm going to say, write these down. This is your time to brainstorm the heck out of all of these. Like I want lists of all of these. Your purpose. So your purpose in one line can be defined as your contribution to humanity. What are you doing to contribute or to bring service during your time here on this earth? That would be considered a purpose. And again, potentially have a lot of purposes, and that's great. Brainstorm the heck out of it. And your mission is kind of bridging the two together. So your passion with your purpose becomes your mission. That's kind of giving the action behind those two things. And then your values. So once you have your mission based on your passion and purpose, then you kind of have this action-based activity, and then you need to know how to approach that action. So this is where your values come in because it will show you or guide you towards how to make that a reality that feels good to you. So your values are those characteristics, those feelings, those important pieces of life that really matter to you, that you really need to be included in your life to feel fulfilled. So it could be freedom, ease, peace, abundance, could be family, travel, it could be service. I mean, there's so many things. It could be episode 9, I believe, of Unstuck. Go back to that episode if you have not defined your values, or if you feel like you've lost your values, or maybe they've changed, or you're not living your values. Go back to episode 9 and do that exercise again to really find your values. So all of this, you should have a whole page at least in your journal now that has your passions, your purposes, your mission, your values, all of that in a big brainstorm. just totally brain dump it all. And then see if you can think of it as a puzzle and see if you can start putting together some of the pieces to find a path that feels really good. Like what you could start focusing on. Maybe it is a career change. Again, I'm not sure what this listener's situation is, but she's lost. So maybe it is a career change. Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it is adding on more tasks in your job if you're feeling complacent and bored, asking for a raise, asking for a promotion. This is all kind of thinking in the career path. But then also when it comes to life, maybe it is starting a new hobby. I mean, now's a great time, at least in some cases, to start a new hobby. I guess not if you have to go to a giant group of people in order to do your hobby, but if you have any sort of creative outlet that you want to get going or learn, now's a great time to do that. If you want to start spending more time looking at ways you can be of service to others, maybe it would be making monthly contributions to a charity or doing some sort of other work for a charity that you can do from a distance. These are all things that are really great to do right now. I mean, great to do all the time, but especially right now when life is a little different, really great time to dive into these things. If you do have more time at the moment, what can you do to bring more attention to your own life and to start living your values a little bit better and really start paying attention to what lights you up? Like, when do you feel alive? When do you lose track of time? When do you just like have this warm feeling in your chest? Those are your passions. And is there a way to start bringing in more of your passions, either in your job or in your outside life, or both, hopefully? What can you do to really bring this all together and start living from all of these places? That is the only way you can essentially ensure for the rest of your time here that you are on your own path, that you have not gotten lost from the path laid out for you, is when you focus on those things. And when we start feeling lost, when we start feeling disengaged, when we start getting into autopilot mode, that's all it means, is that we haven't done those things. We haven't thought about those things. We haven't made sure that we're staying connected with those things. And if you haven't done the Autopilot challenge yet, it might be a good time to do so. You can, it's a free 5-day challenge getting you out of autopilot mode, giving you like 5 little tools that you can use anytime you feel like that's creeping into your life. SeanMiner.com/autopilot-challenge to do that free 5-day challenge. All right, let's move on to the next question. Do you have any tips for not stressing over job hunting? Also, another great and timely question right now, because again, like I said, high unemployment rates, lots of people losing their jobs. And yes, it's a very challenging time. It's a very difficult time. It's a very stressful time. And finding a new job is a very stressful activity, or can be. So what can you do to relieve some of that stress? Well, I think, again, very understanding of the situation, and I do not make light of anyone losing their jobs, filing for unemployment, having to find another job, and going through that process. And it's real, and I know it's a struggle, but what I can say is that stress of any kind, including when you're looking for a job, we know this too. You know what I'm about to say. It doesn't actually change the situation. It doesn't make you get a job any faster. It doesn't make you get any better of a job. It doesn't change anything except your energy. And the energy that we bring to anything we're doing matters. So when we have that stress, and I would assume based on, looking for a new job, and perhaps being in a place of unemployment, that stress is really coming from a place of fear of not getting a job, fear of not having enough money, fear of never getting back to what you were. There's a lot of fear of the unknown, fear of the future. And no matter how much we want to control it, to know what's going to happen, to be able to look into the future, we can't. There's no way. We don't know what's going to happen. And that looking into the future is causing your fear, which is lowest frequency of vibration in an emotion we can have. That stress then coming from that is something that's completely out of your control. But you can control your response and your emotion and your energy. And that shift can do so much, will do so much for the outcome that you will have during your job search. So with this, I want you to know that I'm not saying go from fear to joy about, being unemployed, needing to find a job. That's not possible. That would be faking it. That's probably not going to happen, right? But can you, instead of feeling this fear and stress and overwhelm, can you instead go to maybe this place of hopefulness where you start getting excited about the potential of what could come out of this, where maybe you could start on a new career path. You could start living more towards your values and passion and purpose. So you can see now I'm tying in the two questions together. And what happens then? So again, you may be like, nope, can't feel hopefulness, which again, go back to the emotional frequency scale, which if you need to get that again, SeanMiner.com/scale. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to episode 3 of Unstuck and listen to that. So go back to that scale and see what you can feel beyond fear that would potentially feel a little better. And how could you get there? And if you're not sure, what I would recommend, and I think you should definitely do this regardless, is to start visualizing and meditating and journaling on your new job. Whatever job it is that you want, your dream career, your dream job, what it is you're looking for, what you want to bring into your life, right now, start doing those things every single day. Write about it. So write about it as if you are already in that job, as if you are going to that job every day. Write about what your office looks like, what you do, who you work with, what your hours are, how you feel in that job. So all the fun that you're having, how important the work that you're doing is, how connected you feel with your colleagues and coworkers. Write it all down. The best prompts I use for this kind of thing, and I do this every single day myself in my journal about my business, my future business, but I write it as if it's already happening. I am, I have, I feel. I know I have talked about that journal prompt on my social media. I'm sure I have here many times. The best journal prompt ever, in my opinion, for starting to manifest and to bring into your life what you want. And you do so by way of the energy that you bring to it. So just by you writing down what it will look like as if it's happening, that then will start your visualization process without you even having to try. Because as you write that down, you're going to be seeing that picture of you in your new role, in your new office, with your new colleagues and coworkers. You're going to be seeing that. You're going to be playing that out in your head as you write it down. So then there's your visualization right there. And then you also, as you write that down, when you get to the part of I feel, you start feeling that. You start feeling that confidence and that happiness and that connection as you write down how you're feeling in that job, in that new job of yours. So do that. And then as far as the meditation goes, I think that's a really great tool. Just, of course, meditation's my number one, but just to relieve the stress, first of all, getting into that place of stillness where you're focusing on the present, where you're doing some breathing techniques and just coming back to that present moment will relieve the stress, of course. But then you can also use that as a time to shift your energy, to start feeling that hopefulness or that encouragement wherever you can get. You can start from that place of meditation. And then, of course, any other stress relieving techniques that you can do, whether it's nature or working out, going for a walk, playing with your dog, cooking up a good meal, whatever it is, when you have those times of just deep fear and stress, take your mind off of it for a little bit and then see if you can come back to it with a slightly different energy and potentially feel a little bit better about that. But what I want to remind you again is that stress comes from looking into and trying to figure out something that you will never figure out. You want to know what the future is going to bring, and we don't have that ability. It would be an awesome superpower, but we don't have it. And so just remind yourself that energy that you're bringing in is pretty much pointless. You're not going to be able to do anything with that negative energy except continue to stay stuck without the job of your dreams. So if you can work on shifting your energy that you're bringing towards your job search, towards building your resume, all these things, and see if you can, instead of that stress and fear feeling, feel a little bit better about it and focus on the present. Stay in the now. That's all you really need to do. That's all you really can do, because everything else is just a waste of energy. Hope that helps a little bit. Great question. And then I have one last question I think we'll get to today. Of course, rapid fire means like 3 or 4 questions. What are your thoughts on health at every size? Great question. I don't know if I've talked about health at every size on this podcast. I know I talked about it quite a bit in the Empower Intensive coaching call that I did about body image. And if you have not watched that or done that work, I highly recommend it. I'll link to it in the show notes, but it's the Empower Intensive. It's a 90-minute coaching call. We talk about a lot of the principles that were brought up in health at every size, but it's just shifting your vibration, essentially, shifting your mindset about your physical body, which is so important, of course. And that's one of the things, going back to health at every size, one of the things that I love about that book, and it is a movement. So health at every size has become a movement, but really it's very much based on a book called Health at Every Size by Dr. Linda Bacon. Very much recommend that book. I will say she is a researcher. She's a scientist, which is what I love about the movement and about this book, is that it all is research backed. It's not just saying, oh yeah, you don't have to be a certain size to be healthy. And, kind of the body positive movement is a different thing. And I think that's also great. But the health at every size is really looking into the research that shows that you do not have to be a certain size or weigh a certain amount or having a certain level of body fat to be a healthy human being. And I think that is where we need to all get. And again, going back to the reason why I love it so much is it really is showing you very clearly, just by looking at the research and the data and all of these studies that she has done, the doctor that wrote this book, Health at Every Size, it kind of points out the stories that you have about not only your own body, but about bodies in general. And so it is a great stepping stone, a great tool to help you see what you have been believing about how health needs to look. And then we can see I was very much in this boat too. And I know a lot of people are. And again, it's like we don't even know it. It's very subconscious. But we really believe as a society that health looks a certain way, that thinner is better, that you cannot be a certain size, be a larger body, and be healthy. And that's just not true. It's just not true. So, it's like we want to have that new story. We are able to maybe see what our stories are. And then we can use health at every size to call ourselves out and to actually start believing those new, true stories. So that's where it really fits into what we do here in Unstuck, in trying to call ourselves out and trying to find our stories and recreate them and rewrite them. Sometimes we need a little science to back it up. And that is what Health at Every Size can do for us. So that's why I love it. I very much recommend it. The book is great. I think she has an actually newer book. Dr. Linda Bacon, if you just Google her or search for her on Amazon, you'll be able to find her books, because I don't know what the newer one is off the top of my head, but also something I would recommend reading as well if this is something that interests you. Again, it is it's written by a scientist, so it's not going to be like story time. It takes a little time to get through. It very much is definitely, if you are a wellness practitioner, I would definitely read it. It does kind of more so read like that kind of book. So not necessarily like a fluffy, entertaining book, but super important. And I do highly recommend it. And definitely, if you're working on improving the health of others, read it and get behind that movement, because it's an important one. And it's one that it's like our society is so tainted with these stories that we need to look a certain way and be a certain weight and body fat percentage to be healthy. And it's going to take a lot of work to change that as a society. And I think this Health at Every Size movement is great. The body positive movement is great, but it needs some backing. And as women who care about that for ourselves and others, it's kind of our duty to start relaying that message. And the best way, of course, is to educate yourself first and then share from there. So I hope that answers that. But yeah, love it and highly recommend. And I'll link to the book and everything in the show notes. All right, I think we'll wrap it up from there. That was really fun. Thank you to those ladies for sending in your questions. Great, wonderful questions. And again, if you were listening to this and you're like, well, none of that actually applies to me, but now you can still see how much value, how many little nuggets are in this kind of work for everyone. And I think that y'all have some journaling to do, some homework to do. So I'll leave you to do that for the week. And if you know someone who could benefit from what we chatted about today, please send them this episode. Please share it with your friends, your family, your social media audience. I would so appreciate it. I appreciate you all. You're the best. And I love connecting with you every week. And I love chatting with you over on social media. So feel free to DM me at Shawn Miner over on Instagram. All right. Until next time, take care.